What is going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great Tuesday, and it's good to see everybody jumping on the live stream here. And it looks like okay, yeah, perfect, perfect. We're also live on Facebook, so if you're watching from Facebook, hello. But welcome to all my fellow YouTube friends. Hope that this was a good weekend for you guys. I know I had a great weekend and lots of exciting things going on. I actually had a listing that I took and we got it closed or got it sold. 6 offers, cash offer, above list. We all know how that goes right now, right? And so if you we're hearing the term, we're hearing the quote, list to last. It couldn't be more true right now. That is certainly what it's becoming. So that being said, I mean, you guys know the format of this live stream. If there's any questions that you have as far as anything related to real estate, marketing, YouTube, blogging, SEO, anything like that, feel free to go ahead and put in the chat your questions, and I will get to them and answer them live on the call. Until we start getting some questions coming in, I do have some questions from some of the past weeks that people have asked either in the comments of some of my videos or have actually messaged me directly. And I'll start there, but feel free just to start putting questions anytime, and then I'll pull them up as soon as I'm able to get to them. Also, if you don't have any questions right now, but you just want to put something in the chat, tell me where you're coming from. I always like to see where some of the viewers are watching in from. So go ahead and type that into the chat right now as we get things going. But again, one of the things too, if you haven't done so already, make sure if you can hit that like button on YouTube here, please do that for me. It definitely helps out my videos, helps out the channel. And then also, if you're not subscribed to my channel already, definitely hit that subscribe button so that way you get notified of all my videos. All right, we got John from San Diego. Well, welcome, John. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping on. We got Nancy Thompson from Florida. Hey, Nancy, good to see you on here. Cool, we got a lot of people chiming in, so welcome, everybody. All right, well, the first question that I've got here written down, somebody had asked this, is they said, Kyle, if you had $5,000 to spend on your real estate business, what would you do? That's a good question. I know obviously trying to optimize your money in the beginning, anytime is really important, but especially in the beginning, if you're like, okay, hey, I do want to invest in my real estate business. I want to do it the most efficient way possible. What should I do for that? And for me, knowing what I know now, there's a few options, right? Well, there's probably a lot of options, but some of the ones that first come to my mind are you can run ads, right? You could run Facebook ads, you could run Google ads, you could sign up for a Zillow, zip code. You could spend a lot into like print marketing or like, sending out postcards. You could send out, you could put door hangers on. You could invest in like a cold calling service like RedX and get, expired numbers and get for sale by owner numbers. There's a lot of, I mean, and these are just like a few different ideas, right? You could invest into open houses and buy your signs. You could, invest into the marketing to promote the open houses. But I think knowing what I know as far as like content and YouTube and how successful that's been recently for not only myself, but for a lot of other agents around me, is I feel like what I would do is I would hire a video editor, or at least I would set aside a good portion of that $5,000 to paying for a video editor. I know that for me, now I've spent a lot of money on video editing in the past. Like I didn't know what was the going rate. So I mean, some of the videos that I had edited, I've spent $200, $300 for. But it's like I know now that I can get a good talking head video like what you see on my YouTube channel. Those videos that are 10 to 15 minutes long, I pay roughly about $60 per video. And so with $5,000, I mean, that would go a long way. That is, over 40 videos worth, of content. I mean, well over that. It's probably over 80 videos worth of content, right? And that's just by getting a video editor. And, so I know that you can have success on YouTube in your first 3 to 4 months pretty easily. There's a lot of agents that are proving out that they are doing that. If you could, start publishing 2 videos a week, that's 8 videos a month. and you do that for 3 or 4 months, you're going to start getting business. You're going to start getting leads. You're going to actually start building a following where people know who you are from your channel. And you could do that with roughly, let's just say 3 months at 8 videos a month, 24 videos. 24 videos times $60 is what's that? $1,400. So for, I mean, less than $1,500, you could have all your videos edited where they look professional, their transitions, all this kind of stuff. And because I think that's the biggest holdup that a lot of agents that I hear from, talk about why they're not on YouTube already. Well, I don't know how to edit videos, or it's like the editing process takes too long. Maybe they're already editing them themselves and they're saying, well, it just takes too long, so I can't make as much content as I want. I would take that whole, kind of scenario out of play. And I would just say, look, I'm going to pay an editor. You can find editors on Upwork, which is where I go, onlinejobs.ph. If you want, but literally, and at this point, you might be thinking, oh, well, that's just you found this good deal with one editor. No, literally, I've got 4 different video editors that I can tap on their shoulders that all do great quality, and they've all agreed to do my videos for $60, so per video. So it's not like an outrageous thing or something that nobody else can get. Go find a couple because like honestly, like what I did. The reason that I have 4, it's not that I really use all 4 a lot, but I was like, look, I'm gonna get 4 different, 4 different videos back, so that way I can see which one's best and kind of go with them. And literally, all 4 were very good. Like, I mean, all 4 of them I would have been happy putting on my channel. And so now I'm like, well, shoot, I'm gonna go with these 2 kind of primarily. But if something ever happened, this person had to take a break or take time off work and they couldn't edit videos for me, well, now I've got 2 more. And I mean, so it's really, it's a lot easier than you might think to go find a video editor and pay, to do your videos. So then it really boils down to now, all you've got to do is kind of do the keyword research, identify what you want to go after as far as the topics, start actually outlining the videos, like, what you're going to say in each one. If you want to go and write a full-blown script for each video, you could do that too. But, just trying to take all of these different ideas, or all of these different, I don't know, what's the word, like reasons why people don't normally do video. If you can take as many, take all those off the table, because I think a lot of times we make excuses of why not to do stuff when really, I mean, we could make excuses of why to do things. We should be doing that, right? So find solutions. Don't, try and make excuses. So that'd be the first thing I would do, is because I know how powerful YouTube is. I would dedicate a good amount of my budget of that 5,000 towards a video editor. Because beyond that, I think that most of us could do just about anything else on that process. Like, you can do the recording, you can go out there and actually make the videos. I've got a lot of different content on my channel about how you can go out and actually do that, and do the recording process. Even if you don't have like a super fancy camera like I've got, you can do it with your iPhone. You could do it with a lavalier mic for $20-$30. So you got to just take those excuses off of the table. But with that kind of a budget, you'd be well on your way to making good YouTube content, which will ultimately grow your real estate business. And I think that, it's also a scalable way of doing it. Like, you spend $5,000 on Facebook ads. Well, if you don't get anything from it, like, you're gone. Like, you have no hope at this point, right? Unless you got some other money coming back in some other way. It's kind of like, oh shoot, like I blew all that money, like I didn't get anything from it, or I still didn't learn what I needed to learn to do it. Whereas like the YouTube, you put that stuff out there, that's going to be working for you, not only just when you do it, but also years into the future, as you continue to do it. So that's what I like about that kind of money there, is doing the video editor for that budget. All right, let's see. We've also got, we've got some questions coming in, I think. What is this? I don't know if this is a question. I'm putting it up here. I want to start videos, but I have a current channel with 800 subs. Should I just add a playlist to this? It's more lifestyle and DIY now, but not many videos. Good question. And I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce your name. I don't want to butcher your Shaylance, I think maybe that's what it is. Shaylise. There we go. There's no N in there. Shaylise. And good question. I think as far as that goes, what I would say to that is, those 800 subscribers that you've got, are they like in the target audience that would be your ideal client. So like if this is your real estate, sales channel, and and the people that currently subscribe are potential buyers and sellers in your market, then I think you could reuse that channel and start adding new content to it, and having, whatever you want to do with that old content. You could leave it on there for the time being. You might be able to leave it on there indefinitely. But if it's a whole separate audience, like if you're speaking to people and they're not necessarily all going to be in your market, um, and they're not going to be buyers and sellers of yours like locally, then I would probably just start a whole new channel, versus just like maybe doing a playlist or something like that. Because I think, when you mix in or you weave in two different audiences, it's never been a good experience for me, or for my channels. And I've tried it. Like I've tried different, different things with, because I have a couple different niches that I'm involved in. And in the beginning, I didn't know this. And so I just tried to like make one channel, and I put a bunch of different content in there, and that was never a good solution. So I would definitely recommend, it really revolves though around your audience, like who you spoke to in those videos and who you're speaking to in the real estate videos. Are they the same? And is there value in there for, for that same audience? If there is, then yeah, I mean, you can keep it on one channel. And, if you want to just create different playlists, that kind of help organize it, then fine. But if it's a different audience, then I would definitely have a different channel. Shalise. There we go. Shalise. There we go. Thank you. I definitely, I don't want to mispronounce your name, so I appreciate you letting me know. Shalise. All right. Perfect. Same audience, but I just passed my exam, so I don't really have a market. Well, what I mean by your market though, Shalise, is like, if you're obviously, I don't know what city you're in, it says North Carolina, I think. So yeah, I mean, whatever you're like, if the current videos that you've got on your channel, if it's speaking to just people in North Carolina, and let's say you're in, Raleigh or something, if that's who's already the 800 subs on your channel, then you could stick to that channels, and then just start, putting real estate content on there. But if like, let's say you're doing like DIY stuff, and people from all over the US are picking up that content, that's who like are your subscribers, and that's who's watching your videos right now, then I would probably start a separate channel that's just specific to Raleigh or whatever market you're in, and real estate in that area. So, all right, cool. Let's see. Appreciate that, Shalise. Let's see. We got another question here, from John. Let me add him in here. I have an agent attraction YouTube channel, a living in Southern California channel, but do you suggest creating other channels for other hot areas in the country for referrals, or is that too much? John, here's the thing, and I don't know like what attraction you've got on your channels yet, like if you've already got a lot of subscribers or a lot of good stuff coming in. But I will say, like, if you try and create too many channels too quickly, it becomes super difficult to become successful at any given one of them. Like, I can tell you the amount of work that I put into just, one channel, into my Kyle Handy main brand channel, is a lot of work, and it's a lot of dedication. And so, like, if you don't already have that set up where like one thing is working for you really well, I wouldn't start like trying to go into a bunch of different ones and start building multiple channels, until I've really, covered all my bases with the different niche channels that I've already created. So like if it's, living in Southern California is your current one, like, I mean, unless you've got hundreds of videos on there where like you've covered all the, questions that people typically ask about that area, you've covered all the different, different neighborhoods and markets within that area. And you really have, a lot of good stuff, and you have your processes set up to where you could take on more work for another channel. I wouldn't go to those other channels just yet. I would still stay focused. I mean, even just having two channels is a lot of work, which it sounds like that you've already got those two channels. So yeah, I would stick to the two that you've got right now, and until you've really got those things nailed in, dialed in as good as possible, then you could start looking at other ones for like referral purposes and stuff like that. And then just keep in mind too, I mean, like the referral side, it's not that it's not good. Yes, you want to build it, but the biggest ROI will be on the channel that you can do where you can personally get deals and make 100% of the commission, versus like, a channel that you're putting a lot of effort in and you're only going to get potentially 30% of the commission because you're just referring all those deals out. So start with the lowest hanging fruit first, which, are the deals that can impact you right away. And then once you've covered it and all that, and you want to move into different niches and opportunities that may be less lucrative potentially, then you could do that. So good question, John. All right, let's see what else we got on here, guys. Got some good questions coming in. Thank you so much. All right, Ashton, congratulations from Corpus. Just passed your exam this morning. That's awesome. Congrats. All right. Who else we've got on here that's chiming in? Oh, yeah, my mom is on the broadcast. Hi, Mom. Lifestyle and DIY is your real estate. You got this. Love it. All right. Perfect. All right, guys. Well, you got definitely some more questions. If you got anything you want to ask, put it in the chat. I've got some more questions to kind of cover here from some of the last few weeks. But I see a lot of people are tuned in, so I know there's got to be some other questions out there that you want to ask live. So go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will get to them. Somebody asked me here, how do you create your CMAs? So here's the thing. I think everybody, if you ask, 10 different agents how they do their CMAs, you're going to get 10 different answers, right? So there's not one right way necessarily to do a CMA. However, I think for me, I like to have as much data as possible, as much information as possible. So I'm going to a bunch of different sources. Number one, I am an actual realtor, so like I can go to the National Association of Realtors Realtor Property Resource Tool, and I can use that. And for most homes, like if they're in like a, kind of a standard neighborhood where there's, most of the homes are kind of, similar to one another. It's like a very neighborhood feel. It's not like rural and, very different qualities and different, features and stuff like that. Most of the time NAR is, or RPR is pretty accurate, I've found. And so I'll start there and I'll use that, but that's not my CMA. Like, that's not like, okay, well, cool. I just go to, RPR and print that out and that's it. I take that into account. I go, of course, to the property tax records, like the county tax records, and I see what the county tax appraisal is just to kind of know. I go to Zillow. I look at what the Zestimate is just to kind of know. Because again, even if it's not necessarily like that's your CMA, you're not going to use the Zestimate as your CMA, most likely. You shouldn't, right? You got to realize that's what a lot of sellers are going to be coming into you from. So if you're going over and you're doing the CMA for a listing appointment, you got to know like what you're, walking into. So you want to be aware of these different things. Like what are they looking at for their tax values? What are they looking at on Zillow? What does RPR say the value is? Once I have that information, then of course I go into my MLS. I do start to, look at property searches here, like in the last 6 months. I'll look at homes that have sold. I look at actives. I look at, active options, pendings, all that kind of stuff for the neighborhood. And if it's not like a neighborhood, I'll usually do like either like a half a mile or sometimes like a mile radius, just depending on like how many homes are kind of in that density. And I'd play around with it until I can get 4, 5, 6, 8 similar properties as similar as possible. I try and stick within about 10% of the square footage range. So if it's 1,500 square foot home, I'll go maybe to 1,650 up, and I'll go 1,350 down. If I can't find something in that range, I can fudge that a little bit. I can go a little higher, I can go a little lower, right? 1,800 square feet if I needed to. But I use that 10% as just kind of like the starting point. But it's not like a hard and fast rule, like you got to be at that number or not. But I start there. I do look at like bedrooms. So I try and start like, if it's a 4-bedroom, I try and look at other 4 bedrooms. If it's a 3-bedroom, I try and look at other 3 bedrooms. If it's got a pool, I try and like match it up to ones that have a pool. Acreage, if it's on like a half acre, an acre, 2 acres, I try and match it up to similar acreage. So like if it's in just like a neighborhood home, well then most time you're just comparing it to other homes in that neighborhood or in that square footage or in that radius. But if it's like, okay, it's out on some land and it's on an acre, well then I'll do like a bigger radius, maybe 3 miles or something, or 5-mile radius. and I'll compare it to other acreage properties. So, homes that are sitting on 0.75 to 1.5 acres if it's an acre property. If it's on 3 acres, I might compare it to homes that are on 2 acres to 5 acres, right? Just to kind of give a ballpark and kind of get the same thing. Especially now, I mean, you might not always find things that are exactly the same thing, but you got to find, well, what's the most similar? And you start kind of like budging on little things here and there until you can at least get like 4, 5, 6 homes to kind of determine like, okay, well, hey, these are kind of similar, but this one doesn't have this, but it does have this. And just start wrapping your mind around the different things that it has and doesn't have. Start looking at things like, well, how quickly did this one sell? Versus like, if it sold in a couple of days versus it took like 6 months to sell it. Those are all things you want to know when you're comparing comparable properties to whatever your subject property is. And so like what I do then at that point is like, I'm just kind of like, I still haven't like created anything. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around all of the data to like make a good opinion on something. And then from there, once I have an idea in my mind of like, okay, I think that the value is around this. If it's close to RPR's value, now I will go into RPR and and I might actually go in there and make a seller report from it where like I can actually print it out or I could email it out with something that says like, hey, this is about the value. And I'll, I'd say a good amount of like neighborhood homes, that's what I end up doing. If it needs to be tweaked a little bit, like maybe RPR has bad data, maybe it doesn't have the right bedroom count, maybe it doesn't have the right square footage, you need to update that. Maybe you need to go in there and you can actually kind of change around some of the comps that it's picking to where like it actually does give you the value of what you feel it should be on RPR. Then I'll tweak it and then I'll still send that as the seller report because now it's got the updated value. But so that's what I in particular do is I use RPR. I try and use it, but only once I've done a full evaluation though, and I know that it's accurate. I'm not just going to send off a random report or even believe that RPR is correct until I've verified through a couple other ways. So that's one of the things. The other, I know a lot of people that will use Cloud CMA. I know that's a pretty clean platform. You can definitely, I haven't used Cloud CMA myself personally in a while, so can't speak to like the accuracy or like, how good of a system it is today, but I have used it in the past and I do still know agents that use it. And they speak highly of it. So that would be another one if you wanted to just check it out, but I've not personally done that. But that's CMAs. I've got a whole nother video too. If you want to go more in depth on my channel, where literally actually I had somebody just talk to me yesterday about it and they were like, oh, your CMA video was so helpful. I share my screen. Like I literally show you, show me going through an entire CMA process of how I do that. And so, I mean, if that's something you wanted to check out, go check on my channel for it. But yeah, that's kind of how you do there. Let's see. It looks like we got some other videos here as far as some questions here. All right. We've got, sorry again, I'm trying to pronounce your name. You're going to have to tell me maybe in the chat there how to pronounce your name. But she says, I understand that I have to leave my comfort zone for business to start moving, but honestly, I still don't know how to start. Well, I mean, as far as how to get started, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, yes, you got to take action some way. You've got to plant your flag on some form of lead generation, something that you're going to just do and take action on it. And yes, that will put you outside of your comfort zone. But I think you've got to come up with a plan of like, what do you want to do? Like, I don't know what your strengths are. I don't know what your past history is as far as like what you've done in the past, or even just like what you think that you want to do in real estate. But I think, one of the important things that you want to do is find somebody that's built a business the way that you would want to build your business, and try and recreate it, right? Like really get down to the bottom of it. I mean, maybe you got some friends that are in the business. Maybe there's an agent at your brokerage that you really respect or admire. And, or maybe it's just social media and you see an agent that's doing something really cool. I think the important thing is to like try and get to learn a little bit more about them. And the cool thing is, I mean, yes, I think it's great just to, talk to an agent, like say, hey, I really respect what you're doing. Would you be willing to, jump on a quick Zoom call, jump on a call, go to coffee, whatever that is. And maybe they're willing, maybe they're not. But ask them that and then see if if they are willing, like ask them like how are they primarily driving their business, and see if that's something that you can recreate, right? Finding out, like, because most of the time for most agents, they get 90% of their business from one source, right? It's not like, most agents, let's say you have four sources and you're going to get 25% of your business equally from each source. There's usually a primary driver. And so for you, you got to figure out what's your primary driver, like, going to be for your real estate business, and then learn all that you can learn about that one thing in particular. Like, I know a lot of agents, they just like watch a bunch of different YouTube videos of training, or maybe their brokerage provides a lot of different training and they're just taking training to take training. You got to be way more strategic than that. Like, you've got to identify what is it that I'm going to do. Then you got to become the expert at it. So you got to seek out the specific training that speaks to that and how you get better at that one thing, and try and limit all of the distractions that are around you. Literally putting blinders on, like horse blinders, where you're only focused on that one thing, becoming better at that one thing. All the action that you're taking is going towards that one thing. And that's how I think, once you start to do that, things start to get a little bit easier. You may not be more comfortable, like, you're gonna be still putting yourself out in maybe some uncomfortable positions, but at least you're not like wondering, well, what should I be doing anymore? Like, what to do. Now, whether or not you do it is just going to be up to you, right? So like, now, like, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So for me to be successful, like, this person is doing X, Y, and Z this many times. I want to do it this many times, right? And then you do it, and you either do it that many times or you don't, and you're going to know, though, like, where you stand as far as like having that be a benchmark. So, all right. Yeah, so you're 20. Okay, yeah, let me add this because this is actually something that I worried about too. You're 20, feels like that's holding you back a little. People kind of look down on you. When I got started in the business, I was 22, and that was definitely something that I worried about. Like, I was 20, and I'm thinking to myself, like, a lot of my clients, they'd be coming in and they're 50 years old or they're 60 years old. And I'm like, why would they listen to me? Like, I didn't even own a house at that time. And I'm like, who's going to listen to me at this point in time? And it definitely was on my mind. And it's definitely a valid thought. Like, you should be thinking about that, because there are people that are going to think that. So because of that, I think that you do have to become, like, make yourself be seen as much of an expert as you can. But to be an expert doesn't mean that you have to have done this for 10 years. Like, you can teach people, you can train things by being one step ahead of them, right? So like, if you position yourself, like, let's say, I talked about this at the beginning, that you wanted to do YouTube. You could make YouTube videos that talk about, like, living in whatever market that you're in, and position yourself as the expert by, like, researching that topic. Like, let's say you're going to make a video about the 5 pros and cons of moving to your area. Like, you could go watch other videos where people talk about that. Plus, if you've lived there for a while, you already may know the pros and cons of living there. You could, ask your audience. Maybe you got some friends. Maybe you've got some people that you respect that are already homeowners. Go, kind of ask them, hey, what do you like about living here? What do you not like? Do a little bit of research in the beginning. Do a good amount of research, as much as you're willing to do, and then make a video about it. And I'm telling you, it's really weird. When you make those videos, people will start to see you as the expert, right? Pretty quickly, a lot faster than any other way. Like, if you don't have anything content wise to kind of like hang your hat on, and you're just trying to like go out there and do things, randomly throughout the day, and hoping that people are going to see you as an expert, it is pretty difficult to be to appear as the expert. And so I think that by, having a content strategy, that will increase your expertise quicker, and it'll, like, give people more confidence in you quicker. Plus, you are actually learning. I mean, when you're learning ideas to make content about, you're learning yourself about what to say, and that's just giving you more reason to go out there and to become better and to learn new things. And so, but again, it's not like you had to do it for 10 years before you could make a video about it. You can just be making these videos as you're learning and as you're doing this stuff. So that would be my suggestion there. So let's see. Okay. we've got another one. I don't know who this one is, but this is somebody from Facebook. Says, new agent, member of the Dream Team. Welcome. Love it. I love to see my fellow Dream Teamers on here. Is it best to start with my name as YouTube channel name for personal branding, or I can start with the other name that I have in my mind, CC Legacy, that I was promoting on Facebook prior to becoming an agent? So, I mean, I think as a real estate agent, personal branding is one of the fastest and easiest ways to start getting success. It's not the only way. I mean, you can start up a different brand. I think you want to think with like the end in mind. Like if you really like don't want to be the face for very long, um, or at all, you know, if you don't want this like resting on your shoulders, then yes, I mean, going with, you know, a different brand name could be good. I don't mind building a personal brand. Like I plan to be in this business a long time. You know, I want to work this business, and I feel like, you know, with real estate being such a relationship based business, being able to connect what you're doing with a person will help you grow so much faster than just trying to grow a brand. So I mean, that's not to say like a random brand, not like a personal brand. That's not to say you can't do it. I mean, there are people that do it. There are real estate agent brands that do that. Um, but I think the more consistently successful way of doing it is building a personal brand. Just know though that like it's much more difficult. Like if let's say you wanted to get out of the sales business, or you know the business, and maybe like either sell your business or at least step out and have somebody else kind of managing it, running it day to day. It is more difficult to do that with a personal brand. So you may have to be in the business longer, that type of a thing. But if you're like, hey, I'm just getting started, like I'm willing to do that if that's the most successful thing, then do that. That's what I do believe would get you there. Um, so hopefully that helps you there. All right. What did you put here, Ma? She says fear, false experiences appearing real. There you go. Feeling excited and ready. Your choice. I like that. I never heard about that. Fear, false experiences appearing real, or feeling excited and ready. Your choice. That's awesome. Well, I always like the second one there, feeling excited and ready. So that's good stuff. All right. We'd like to learn your. Somebody puts they want to learn my taekwondo skills. That's, hey, I'm still learning myself, so I'm 4 months in, so it's fun. It's been a lot of work, and it is it's Brazilian jiu-jitsu, so that's been fun. I wouldn't be in it if it wasn't for my daughter. So my daughter and my son are both into it, and I can't quit them now because I got started when they did. So that's what kind of keeps me going. So all right. Let's see here. What else questions we got? Go ahead and throw your questions in there. If you haven't liked this video, make sure to give this video a like, guys. It really helps out. I appreciate that if you're getting any value from the video. All right. How do you deal with clients not responding after they said to reach out down the road? All right, that's a good question. So I'm sure we get this all the time, right? You get, you know, people in your database. Maybe it's your sphere of influence. Maybe it's just random leads. But either way, you get people that say, you know what, I'm not ready now, but you know, I want to buy in 6 months, or I want to buy in 3 months, or I'm ready to list my house this summer, right? And then so you give them some time, you give them some space, but then you follow up, and all of a sudden, like it's crickets, right? Like they're ghosting you, and you don't know what's going on. And maybe you just called them one time, they didn't answer. Maybe you texted them and they didn't respond back. I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. I think at that point, you know, what I like to do is I try different mediums of communication with them. So if I emailed them the first time and they didn't respond back, well, then maybe the next time I call them. You know, if I called them and they didn't answer and they didn't respond to my voicemail, they never called me back. Maybe the next time I send them a video text message, right? Hey, John, Kyle here. I know you said that you might be considering selling your home this summer. You know, I was just following up on that. I was just checking in on that. And, you know, if you've got any questions, I'm here. Would love to hear from you either way, whether you are still considering it or not. And but either way, just want to hear what's going on in your life, right? Send a video text message, send a bomb email, you know, video email. Just do something different, right? So I always try and change up the medium, so it's not like I just feel like I'm pestering the person. Like I called them, and then I called them 2 days later, and then I called them 3 days after that. Like, I don't want to do that, right? Or maybe I'll hit them up on social media. I'll send them a message on Facebook, right? Or maybe I'll comment on their post. If I go on Facebook and their sphere of influence, like they're a friend of mine, and they didn't answer me, a good way to get their attention is go on one of their recent posts. Like if they posted something in the last week or so, comment, "Oh, that's awesome," whatever it was, "Oh, that's awesome." Like, if it was something positive or something in their life, you know, um, hope all's well, right? And then literally they'll see that comment. Sometimes they'll call you back out of it. Or at least if you follow up again, maybe a couple days later, they might answer your call or take your call. So I think just switching up the mediums is the best way to do it. So that way, if they're not responsive and you've tried a bunch of different mediums, you've tried, waiting over a period of a few weeks, let it go. And if if it goes like 3 or 4 months, and you don't hear from them, and then maybe try again, after a little while. But don't be like annoying to people, especially if they're your sphere of influence. Like if they're not calling you back or whatever, sometimes it's for a reason. Like maybe they're not comfortable. Maybe they did hire somebody different. At the end of the day, though, you got to keep moving on. You got to focus on what you can control, and just trying to make yourself be as helpful as you can, be as friendly as you can. Um, so yeah, that's what I would do is try a couple different mediums, try adding some value to them if you can. Like if you saw they went through something on Facebook, comment to that. If you can send them like an article that might help out with what they might be coming up with, like if they are thinking about selling their house that summer or buying a house, just shoot it to them in a text message. "Hey, I came across this article. I remember you said you were thinking about selling this house, you're selling this summer. Here was a cool thing that talked about the best ways to prepare your house for sale. Hope you're doing well. Would love to talk to you soon." Right? Just something like that. You can always kind of do those types of things. So, all right. We've got Jake. Jake says, "Good morning, Kyle. Started RedX this week to focus on more listings." Nice. We all need more listings. "Any thoughts on geo farming, cold calling, and/or expired listings still being viable in 2022? Yeah, so good questions, Jake. Geo farming, I love it. I think geo farming is great, especially with the way that the market is today. I'd say expired listings are obviously less viable than they were maybe a few years back. It's not to say that they're like impossible or that they don't exist at all, but they are more difficult. For sale by owners, they still, I would say, for sale by owners are good still. They haven't dropped off quite as much as expired listings, in my opinion. They're still difficult. I mean, for sale by owners, I mean, we're not gonna, make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, it's, cold calling anything is more difficult. So you got to be willing to go through a lot of rejection. You got to be consistent with your follow up. But I do like geo farming. Finding a listing in an area that maybe have sold, even if you didn't sell it, calling the neighborhood, and just saying like, "Hey, I don't know if you saw, but a listing just down the street sold for XYZ. Had you seen that? Or whatever your script's going to be, right?" And just trying to find out like what people know about these different sales, what they know about maybe if they want to list their house soon. I do like geo farming. And geo farming, especially around like doing your open houses, if you do have your own listings already, can certainly be an effective method as well. But yeah, really, I mean, geo farming, the cool thing though that I will say about geo farming and using RedX for it is number one, like if you are already doing other things, like if you're running Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever kind of ads that you've got, or if you've got content centered around a neighborhood, if you're doing like events in an area, if you've got all these like different things that you might be doing that people have already seen you, and now you start to call on that geographic farm, that's going to be a lot more effective, because now people will be like, "Oh, you know what? I did see your sign, or I did see this," right? So they might be more receptive to speaking to you. Um, it's still not going to be like a super high percentage, but you will start to hear that from people if you've got some kind of marketing presence in that different geo farm. But I do like geo farming. I think it's a great way to get started with RedX. So cool. Glad you're doing it. Let me know how it goes for you. If you got any questions, definitely would be happy to help. And let's see. Oh, there you go. And you used my link to support as well. Love it. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate that. Yeah, guys, if you're gonna go sign up for RedX, you get a discount if you go to kylehandy.link/RedX. So, and usually that link is down at the bottom of all my videos in the descriptions. So appreciate that, Jake. Good question there. All right, so moving on to the next question that I've got saved away here. Somebody had asked, any tips for working with new construction? So for those of you that may not know my background, I've been in new construction before I got into general real estate for about 5 years. And so I worked with a lot of agents on the other side of it, right? Like I was in the new home side working with a lot of agents. And one of the things that I'll say as far as, new construction and getting started in that, it is like I still think that, having a content presence works for new construction. I think it actually works really well for new construction. The demand for content around new construction, I think, is pretty high. Making videos that have something to do with like new construction neighborhoods in your area where you go and do kind of like almost like a neighborhood spotlight, talk about the different builders that are in that area, talking about price points, included features, future plans for that neighborhood, future plans for that area, like, what's going to be going into those different areas. Because a lot of them, they're, these new neighborhoods, they're in new areas, right? So there may not be a whole lot just yet. So, speaking to like what's going to exist. So, you're going to have to do your research, to actually provide good value for that type of stuff. But if you want to get into new construction, being the source of information for that new area on YouTube. And then, of course, you could always, run ads behind it if you want and do like Facebook stuff, do Google stuff, to where you promote these videos that you're already making. If you can become the source for it, you're going to constantly find yourself getting leads that, are coming to you for that stuff. And then as new builders start to see you making a presence in their area, and then you can even share with them, like if back when I was in new home sales, YouTube wasn't as big of a thing back then, right? But like if an agent had came out and said like, hey, Kyle, check this video out that I just made about your neighborhood, number one, is it accurate? Or like, hopefully they would have came to me beforehand and been like, hey, can I get some information? Because I want to make a video about this neighborhood and help promote your neighborhood. That would have stood out to me. Like I would be like, oh my gosh, like that's really cool. And then that would have motivated me if I did have business that I could, send out, because a lot of times I would get deals where they didn't have agents or they didn't have representation. And, and if I had a relationship with an agent that I knew was working just as hard to promote me, I would have reciprocated and tried to help them out as well. I'm not saying that that's guaranteed for every new home builder and every new home agent that's working those, but like you do that with enough people and you build enough rapport and trust and you're building value and helping them out, they're going to want to do the same for you. And then as you start to have success with individual neighborhoods, let's say you do one neighborhood and then you go to a next neighborhood and you do another one. If you start doing that enough with enough builders, eventually the sales manager is going to start being like, oh my gosh, like look at this person, like what are they doing? Like, they're selling a lot of our homes. Well, now who knows? Maybe you become like the featured agent for that builder, right? You can start doing their move up programs. Like if they've got people that come in that need a house, need to sell their house, but in order to buy the new construction house, maybe you become the featured agent that gets to do all those listings. It doesn't start just like one day, like all of a sudden you're just going to get, all this new construction business. You got to build up to it. But by doing that type of strategy where you're integrating like your marketing, you're integrating your value around new construction, people will start to take notice. And you'll start to get success that way. And I think right now it's a great way to build a business is around new construction. I know that for agents, it's nice to have, like if you got a good relationship with a good builder, number one, it can provide you some consistency, knowing that, hey, you're going to get thrown a couple deals here and there throughout the year just from situations that might come up that they need your help. But you can also proactively build your own business around new construction too, where you become the known source of the agent in that market that knows a lot about new construction. You know a lot about the different builders. You know a lot about their inventory. You know a lot about the differences. And like, well, this builder offers, X, Y, and Z versus this one, gives you this, or this one's more focused around green construction and, energy efficiency features. Whereas this one, is kind of just more like lowest cost. This one's customer service. This one's like knowing that stuff. And so, but it's all just kind of starts around kind of learning it first, becoming the expert, as much of an expert as you can around it, and sharing that process, sharing that journey with other people. So, with your audience. All right. What else do we got? I've got a couple more questions on here. So once I'm done here, if I don't get any more on the live call, then we're gonna be done. So post up your questions. If you're on Facebook, if you're watching from YouTube, put them in the chat, and I'll answer those questions live on the call. So let's see. This person says, who do you use for video editing services? I talked a little bit about that at the start of the call, but like I said, at this point now, I pay about $60 for per video for my videos. I think now that I know what I know, that's probably about the going rate. I talked to a lot of other creators, and that's about what they pay too for video editors. I mean, you can pay more, of course, and there's services that you can pay less. But I think good middle ground for good quality for like a 10 to 15 minute talking head video. Now I'm not talking about like a nice travel vlog where you got a bunch of transitions and music and all sorts of stuff like that. That's probably going to cost you more. But for a pretty basic talking head style video where you're adding some text onto the screen, they're cutting out your ums and your ahs and your screw ups and all that kind of stuff. $60, and you can get somebody that does it for that price. If you look around on either Upwork, you can check out Fiverr, and you can check out onlinejobs.ph, which is for the Philippines. And so, it's one of those things where, like, at first, you might think like, oh, like, well, I need somebody from the US in order to edit all my videos. And that may not always be true. I think, the most important thing is have like an example of what you want your finished product to look like. Share that with whoever you may be potentially hiring and saying like, hey, I'm going to provide you the raw footage. I need the end result to kind of look similar to this. Maybe you don't have the same camera setup. Maybe you don't have all that same stuff as whoever it is that you're sharing, but just say like transitions wise, the feel for it wise, I want it to look like this. Can you produce this for me for $60, and just see and go from there. But yeah, like Upwork is a good one. You can search, video editor, and you're going to get all sorts of suggestions. You create a job posting, people can apply to it. You can hire multiple ones. Like for me, I like to hire like 3 or 4 at a time and have them all do a video for me and have them all, get all the footage back. And I see like which one did the best job. And I actually just did that with 4 different ones, and all 4 of them came back really good. So, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of talented people out there that are doing freelance work that can really make the difference for you. All right. Let's see. All right. We've got another question. eXp Realty in Florida. Nice, fellow EXPer. Love it. How do you go about finding a listing? I'm surrounded by retirement homes and lots of elderly 50 plus. I think for that, so here's the thing. If you don't have a big sphere of influence already where you can tap into, and it sounds, because I remember your question earlier, you're on the younger side and you may not have a lot of people that already own houses that would be looking to sell them. One of the things you might need to do is get, like, if you've got a lot of elderly and retirement areas around you, is maybe start to network with those different retirement communities. Because one of the things is, like, people, when they go to like look for these retirement homes or retirement communities, they start like researching that stuff early on before they've sold their property. And so if you can become connected into that, that center or whatever, getting to know specific agents that, help facilitate the buy side of it. And you can then become an expert on the sell side and showing like, hey, I take great care of people. I make it easy for them. Of course, like, I'll work within your procedures and doing what you need here. Then, getting in from that side of it can be really good. Now, but you're gonna have to stand out. You got to do something. So like, make some content, do something in the beginning that shows that you're active, or just, put in the effort, like consistently show up. If they've got functions, where maybe they're doing like, neighborhood events, like for like elderly neighborhood events or anything like that. Like, if you want to make that your niche, you have to go all into it. And you got to, like, don't just like kind of be in like with a toe in the water, like dive in and like try to really, make yourself omnipresent in that space. I'm not in that space, so I can't tell you the specific things of like, do this to get, to add value into there. But I guarantee you, once you start like participating with the different things that go along with, like elderly, 50 plus community type of things, you'll start to find out like what are their struggles, what are their needs, what can you speak to that becomes valuable to them. And then just starting to really work that angle as much as possible until you start to stand out to not only clients that are looking to do that, but then also the people that maybe servicing on the buy side of it, to where you can then work the listing side of it. So that would be one way. Of course, prospecting, like, I kind of talked about earlier with Jake. If you wanted to get like RedX and start doing circle prospecting, finding out the neighborhoods that typically, like maybe the people that are getting older, they're potentially going to be moving into the 50 plus communities. Like, what neighborhoods are they moving from most often? Typically it's probably going to be like an older neighborhood that they're moving from, right? So if you got on a geo farm for that neighborhood, and you had a good script put together where it was like, hey, I'm this is my thing. I typically help people looking to move into this retirement community or whatever. You may not start with that because you want to kind of know a little bit about them. Like, don't just be pigeonholing somebody. Like, maybe they're like, I'm not moving into a 50 plus community yet, or something. Like, so you don't want to like off put somebody, but just getting to know people. Like, hey, I work with a lot of clients who move from this area, and I was just curious to know if you've ever considered moving, right? And then just doing that. But that's like a prospecting based approach, which I still think is very valid. And it's something that you might want to consider. So the listings are tough, but they're worth getting. Like, I'm telling you, getting a listing might be 2 to 3 times harder than getting a buyer, but in the scheme of things, like long term, the amount of work and effort you put into a listing, even with having to put more of that work in up front, it will still take you less time to build that business than the buyer-based business. Because yes, you might get more buyers easily in the beginning, but then to close the deal with those buyers, especially in this market right now, it's going to take a lot more time on the back end. So, I mean, yes, it might be frustrating and it's difficult to do, but build your systems around the listings. And I think, down the road, you'll be very happy that you were able to do that. So, all right, well, let's see. I got one more question, guys. That I've got to answer that, from the last time, and then it looks like that'll probably take us to our time here. But this question here says, how long does it take to become a successful real estate agent? So this is actually, it's kind of a difficult question to answer because, I mean, obviously everybody's definition of success is different. But I would say, for most people, if like, you were selling 25 to 30 homes a year for most agents, especially like new agents, that would be a form of success. People would say like, that's a level of success that I would strive to get to. Now, of course, there's a lot of agents that could be team leaders, or you're a seasoned agent already, and you might go, well, I've already done that. That'd be a bad year, or that's already what I do. Like, to be successful, I want to sell 80 homes a year. I want to sell 600 homes a year. So everybody's level of success is different. But I would say like how long it takes to become successful. There's even like the length of time is a little bit different. Like, I know agents that are on the dream team. They're in my group that in the first year they sold 25 or 30 homes. Like, their very first year in the business. It happens, right? Like that can, so you can be successful right away if you put the work into it. And that's not to shortchange. I know there's a lot of agents that put the work into it and maybe they're not successful their very first year, or they don't have that level of success. But it is possible to do it, right? So if you're not having that success, usually, I mean, it's not maybe necessarily your effort. Maybe it's your strategy. Maybe it's your approach. Maybe you need to relook at what your activities are, like what you're doing to try and get success. Maybe it's your plan, right? And so, but I think that it is highly possible to become successful within your first year in the business. I know agents that within 3 months they have closings. So I mean, I don't think that it's kind of hard to say, like, unless you just had a deal that you knew already before you got your license, that like they were just waiting for you to get your license. It's hard to close a deal before 3 months. So really, I mean, if that's your level of success, is like, I want my first deal. If that's what the question is, then I would say, probably 3 to 6 months realistically. But like, if you're saying like, I want to be a successful agent, how long does it take? 1 year to 2 years. I mean, the first year will be difficult, um, but you can definitely be successful in that first year. And then everything after that, if you just keep being consistent, you keep building on what you're already doing. I think that it'll just get easier and easier as the time goes on. So let's see, we've got a couple questions. I'll answer this one just because we still have a little bit more time. Alexander says, "Hello everyone, Northern California. Passed your exam last Friday. Congrats. Interested in starting your business at EXP. However, he's concerned about picking a sponsor." Let me see here, and then you got a follow up here. Let me add that one here. Heard horror stories about picking a sponsor and being stuck without any of the proper direction or guidance, even from some mentors. It is the biggest obstacle I have. It's a huge commitment. I agree, Alexander. I know that can obviously be a big decision. I actually made a video talking specifically about sponsorship at EXP, or just sponsorship in general. I mean, there's a few different companies where you do, it's a similar setup where you name like a sponsor going into it. And so whether it's EXP or any of these other companies, you do want to put some thought into it, right? And I think what you really want to number one do is pick somebody who's building a business or who has built the business that you want to build. Not that is like saying they're going to build it or like is like, because like when you pick a sponsor, there's a lot of agents that could be good sponsors, but they're like still building what maybe you hope to build, right? So they're like alongside you. I want to pick somebody who's proven that they can do that I want to do, right? Like they've already had the success level that I want to achieve. Number one, and then number two, I want to pick somebody that has a proven track record of like showing that they're willing to show how they do it, right? So like, I try and prove every day that I'm willing to show agents how to do it by coming on YouTube and being consistent and making videos. I also have, my dream team group where I have a Facebook group and I go live in there a bunch of times too. And I mean, you can, we do like a free trial where you can jump in our Facebook group and see the type of commitment that I have as a sponsor. Like I don't just leave people hanging, right? Like if they come in there, they've got questions, I answer their questions. If it's a more detailed thing, we can jump on a Zoom call. I can answer their question. And so like, do they have a proven track record that they're actively helping people? Don't just take people for like face value or like, their words. Like what systems have they built? Like where can you go to see what they've done? Or at the very minimum, ask like, hey, would it be okay? Like who's a sponsor that you've sponsored or, an agent that you've sponsored that I can talk to see like, what they think about being in, a part of your group, get their experience, get their feedback. Right. And, because I mean, I don't want to say it like as if it's like a bad thing, but everybody wants to sponsor the agents, right, that are coming into the company. So, I mean, it's like a salesperson, like they're going to try and say why they think that you should join under them. But all you have to really back it up is like, well, what's their body of work? Like, what can I see that they've done? That I know I would be coming into a good setup. And so, that would be my suggestion there. And then once you have that, that's a starting point. Now at that point, like set up a meeting, see if this person is, willing to do what you need from them. Jump on a call with them. If they're not even willing to jump on a call, a Zoom call, a phone call, that's probably a bad sign as it is. So like, see if they're willing to do that, right? Like I offer, in all of my videos, the link in the very bottom, or bottom left corner, kylehandy.com/partner. You go to there, you can set up a call, right? And so, it's either with, I either set it up with myself or somebody on my team, but no matter what, if somebody's like, no, I just need to talk to Kyle, I always jump on those calls, right? But like, I've built systems, and that's why I try and teach people is like, hey, build systems so you can support everybody. Because that's the other thing is sometimes you get too big, right? There's agents at my company, there's agents at other companies that sometimes they build it too big and they're not necessarily the best at building a system. And so like things start to break down and they can't support people even though they may want to. They may have the desire, and maybe in the past they actually have, but like now today they're not able to. And so like, what do their systems look like? How can they help a lot of people at the same time? And so like really just trying to wrap your mind around that type of stuff. I think is important, and just like seeing like, do I fit in alignment with this person? So hopefully that helped to answer your question there. He said, Alexander, what'd you say? I will be joining the link. Oh, I love it. Yeah, Alexander, we will look forward to talking to you. I'm not trying to, say, pitch myself or anything, but I do feel like I'm a great sponsor, and I love to. This is my passion. I'm going to be in this thing for a long time. I have proven track records and results, and I really do want to help other agents have that same success. At the same time too, I think, also having clear expectations going in of what the role is that your sponsor provides, knowing that like they're not going to be the end all be all. They can't put the work in for you. So like sometimes too, and I'm not saying this from you or anybody in particular, but like knowing though too that your sponsor isn't just going to make or break you though either. It does fall a lot on your shoulders. Your sponsor can guide you. They can give you the advice, the tactics, the strategies, the systems, but like you still got to go out and do the work. You also still got to plug in. A lot of times with sponsorship, you get out of it what you're willing to like go and kind of take from it, right? So like if you kind of like go into the situation expecting somebody's going to like pull you along with them, it doesn't work like that. Like you've got to go, take the initiative, like, ask things, go out there and do the work, come back with questions, come back with like, hey, that didn't work, or hey, this doesn't work, the way that I thought it would, what should I do next? How could I do this differently? Like you got to do all that stuff and kind of pull it through. Because like, for the most part, most sponsors that I know of and mentors as well, they're not sitting around just like trying to make you be successful. You got to be successful and come back, or you got to try to be successful and come back with scenarios and situations that you might need more further clarification or help with. And that's how you get the most help from that whole setup. So, all right, cool. Love it. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Looks like I think I don't see any more questions. I see a couple comments. Let's see. Chad says your effort is the key to your success. The information and processes for what you need is available everywhere for most concerns. Yep, I agree with that. Let's see. Who's this? Thomas. I'm having a hard time creating a subject line to email my buyer leads. I mean, that's a quick one to answer. I mean, the one thing that I'll say for subject lines is, for me, you want to, number one, I mean, you could research just like, top subject lines, for click through or for open rates, right? And they don't have to be specific to real estate. Just get examples of how people do it and then try and format that. If you're just trying to make your own example, like, if you're just trying to make your own email subject lines, it's typically not going to go well. Like have some kind of a baseline. Like it's the same thing for me when I was creating blog titles. I used to do them really bad in the beginning. Then I actually started to research how to write the best blog titles. Well, now my click-throughs go way higher because, and same thing for like YouTube videos or blog titles. You want to like learn the art of it, right? And email subject lines, there's an art to it. It gets a lot easier as you do it more and more. It also gets a lot easier as you start to build a bigger list because now you can get more data back faster. But email subject lines, I mean, if you can get 25, 30, 35, 40%, that would be a really good open rate. So just knowing what the expected open rates should be. But like from, most of my emails, I get usually anywhere between 25 to 30% open rate. Once I start getting to 25, I start to clean my list a little bit better. I go back to the people that haven't opened an email in the last like 4 months and I get them off of my list. And then I get my email open rates back up to like 35%. And then they start to move down. And so I'd say on average, it's probably 30% for me. But yeah, that's kind of how that works. So good luck on there. Hopefully that helped out. But guys, thank you all so much. I appreciate your time jumping on today. And I look forward to seeing you next week. If there's anything that I can do to help out, certainly hit me up on Instagram. You can send me a DM and I'll respond to you there. Last little reminder, if you're watching this video, even if it's on the replay, give this video a like as it definitely helps out my videos. I appreciate everybody being on here. And I look forward to all those that might consider partnering with me here within EXP. And if you got any questions about that at all, just go to that link on the bottom left, kylehandy.com/partner. Talk to you later. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.